So talk quite extensively on. Is there anything else to say about reboots? I think we've got enough about franchises in. I think
we've pretty much covered it. It's one of those things where I'm going to be sat editing this and I'll think, that thing we never mentioned, but I know I'm spent on that particular subject.
Yeah, it's a lot. I think to sum up, it's just a case of it feels good in the moment to reboot something and say, right, we're rebooting it.
What an idea! Yeah,
got an idea. This is the new thing of it. I just think again in the future, looking back, how do you make sense of the justification for making so many filmed with the same name? Like the Marvel thing, they've got like a rock solid continuity that I can't see them ever breaking.
No, if essentially, but they did it right. They started with a few single movies,
but their thing is these are all completely intertwined.
Yeah, and the thing is, they didn't plan too far ahead. They planned far enough ahead that they could maintain what they were doing at that particular time. Now that they've got about 10. How many movies are there now? Like 15?
Loads, yeah.
There's like 15, maybe 20 movies under their belts. They can plan even further ahead and where they're going to take it, and that's fair enough.
Yeah.
What I got really annoyed about, and that's why I was like, stop ruining my franchise. It was like, I was talking about also like Studio, the WB, have tried to do what Marvel are doing now and like just skip the beginning. They've even brought in their new Batman at the end of his career. The sort of Dark Knight Returns level, or just before that sort of age of Batman. He's greying, he's been around that long that Robin's already died and shit like that. What? At the beginning? We've already gone past all that crazy shit that like could have happened, would have happened. You know,
you're right.
They've started it at a funny time. They've brought Superman in as a fledgling and Batman as a veteran and slammed them together. They've done Wonder Woman right, but they were able to do that because the idea was set up that their first film was going to be set in World War One. Right at the very beginning of the idea of, like, probably back when Man of Steel was being filmed, they'd already come up with the idea that they were going to do that period Wonder Woman. But they can't really do that with Batman, and they definitely can't do that with Superman. You know, because Superman's only just turned up, and all that stuff's happened to Batman. Then there's the Jared Leto Joker. Where did he... Was it that guy that he'd been fighting for years? Is that what we're supposed to believe?
Yeah,
was it that guy?
Lame-o
that guy that just turns up and laughs weird with his gold guns and shoots it, and that's it. And we're supposed to believe that it was him.
Good enough to Jason Todd.
Whichever Robin they decide it is.
Yeah.
Because depending on who you believe, they haven't even decided whether Jason Todd is the one that's dead.
Well, it's almost like just leave it.
Dick Grayson's going to be Nightwing. There's going to be a Nightwing movie apparently, but that's fair enough. Okay, yeah, we're at that point in time where there's a Nightwing, but what I get confused about is that in every iteration of Batman in either the comics or whatever, the beginning of his career, he probably was for the best part of a decade alone, and then he had a Robin in the form of Dick Grayson. Dick, as he got older and more cynical, decided that Batman was too much of a dick because he was older and cynical, and said, I want to do my own thing. He even moved away from Gotham, went and did Nightwing.
Woodhaven.
Thank you. Then Jason Todd turned up about another 5 or 6 years after that, nicking the wheels off the Batmobile apparently, and then that happened, and he stayed with Batman for the best part of 6 or 7 years again, until from being a young child to a late teens got killed. Then he had Tim Drake, who figured out who Batman was because he was an excellent detective, and that's the whole idea. They haven't even decided whether it's Tim Drake that's dead, because Tim Drake is the one that uses a staff.
Yeah, it had a staff.
And the dead Robin had a staff.
This is like Geek levels of no one cares.
But it's just like make your fucking mind up. You know, that's all it is for me, is just make your fucking mind up and then I'll be happy. You know, you make flawed movies all you want, as long as you don't let that fucking Suicide Squad set precedent, I don't care.
Why are we asked about this, Andy? Like, why do we care?
Because we're grown-ass men.
Well, why? Let's just take a moment, like, I'm being serious now. Why are we standing in a room arguing about which staff is on? Because I'm as mad about it as you are, don't get me wrong. I can't believe I'm saying
I know why it is. I know why it is because this is a massive part of my childhood. It's not that, oh no, you're ruining my childhood, it's just that
sounds like that is what
I've come to understand these things that have been around for decades before I was even born to be the way they are. In every single continuity, they more or less kept it the way it was. Even in the first like few Batman films, no Robin until the third one, and then they brought in the fourth one. Even that was more or less in line with the comic book continuity, as shit as that last film was. And I actually still thought Batman Forever was all right. Sorry, but I did. I thought it was all right. Jim Carrey saved it for one. I thought it was amazingly over the top. And I thought Val Kilmer played a good part as well. And that film's darker than people remember about it, because it's all neon and it's glow in the dark and all the crazy shit that happens.
It had
and all
its
the
angle,
stupid
didn't it? Like
music.
the psychological.
Yeah, and it
struggling with the
being
duality.
Batman duality thing. Yeah, that's all there, and some of it was executed poorly, like him trying to tell Tom Cruise's ex-wife that like he was Batman, or he was struggling with a dual personality, and he was just like, other things, and I broke your door, I'm sorry. Some I can't remember, but because he just didn't really do anything, and for the world's greatest detective, he didn't really explain himself very well. Even that, like I say, that was in some sort of continuity. The Nolan films, all they did was disregard every other character except Batman. They brought in the villains, and you can include Catwoman as a villain by the end, but they didn't have a Robin. Say what you want about Joseph Gordon-Levitt's, they didn't have a Robin in that continuity, but that was always meant to be a standalone set of films. That was always meant to be its own contained little thing. He didn't even plan on making the second one, let alone the third one. He wanted to make Batman Begins because he wanted to tell that story that even in the comic books had never actually definitively been mapped out in linear fashion. Bruce Wayne goes away, comes back 10 years later, no one knows where he'd been, and that's it. And he thought, I want to tell those years that no one's ever told in film or comic or whatever. So he did that, and he was fine. But the Joker card at the end was just too much for people to bear, and he finally came back to it and did The Dark Knight, which arguably is one of the best Batman movies ever made ever. It's probably the best Batman movie ever made in most people's eyes.
Yeah, it's not my favourite though.
I don't think it's mine.
I don't like his stupid voice or his silly face in a bat mask.
It's really weird because in the first film and in the beginning of that film, he doesn't talk like that. It's when he gets the new cowl with the neck that he can turn his neck and all that. It's as soon as they enclose his mouth a lot more, and his mouth sort of squashed like that, so he's sort of going, "Yes, people, just
Doesn't work.
His tongue's sticking out of his face because it's just getting squished out. But like,
the film's a masterpiece. There's no two ways about
it is, and like.
Then it kind of detonates what I was saying about franchisee. That's his vision, isn't it? That's not a franchise
exactly,
film.
That's its own standalone.
That's like, this is my thing, getting knotted. And then I think, like, is it him or Christian Bale sort of saw that they were doing Batman vs Superman later, and he was like, a sec, I thought I was the definitive Batman.
Yeah.
But it's good that these things live on.
They asked him to do it. They offered him a shitload of money, and he turned it down because yeah. To start with, they did, because obviously they planned it when they were making Man of Steel. And they made Man of Steel between Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises. And they'd offered him the money right there and then, and he said, "No, I don't want to do it." So their plans were immediately halted, and they wanted to wait a certain amount of time before the Dark Knight ended, because again, they weren't going to make a third one. But studio pressure, audience pressure, everyone wanted to make him to make another one. So he did, and also he didn't want to use Bane. He didn't know of Bane, he didn't really want to do the Bane thing until David S. Goyer convinced him of a certain way of doing Bane, which ultimately, do you know what I would really like to see? And that's what they did the Dark Knight Returns and the Nightfall saga and smashed them together and made the Dark Knight Rises. I want that Nightfall Bane. Nightfall Bane broke Batman's back, and I mean fucking broke Batman's back definitively. That character, Bruce Wayne, was not going to return in the comic book continuity. He was out of it at that point. It was only after public outcry, after a while, that they weren't happy with the new Batman, which was John Paul Valley, who ended up being Azrael after this. He had the Azrael persona, but he started to go nuts in the Mantle of the Bat and started killing people. Yeah. I think they had always planned on having Nightwing and Robin take him down, and I think the idea was that Nightwing would take over the Mantle of the Bat and he would ultimately be Batman until something. But they ended up bringing Bruce Wayne back to stop John Paul Valley as sort of a, sorry guys, as sort of a public apology almost. But that storyline would be amazing. You could really condense that film that down into either a trilogy or an actual just a film.
But you can never get that level of, if he's away for that long in the comics, you can't just... We had it in The Dark Knight Rises, he's away for like a cup of coffee, he's in some prison that's nowhere.
Yeah, exactly.
And he comes back.
Yeah, but they didn't really...
It's hard to do
the idea that. As well wasn't that he'd been away for that long.
Yeah.
And they loosely danced around that he'd broke his back. He'd slipped a disc.
A couple of discs.
Yeah, and the dude just punched him in the back, and that's fine. That'll do.
Yeah. But I think that raises an interesting point of like, yeah, that is Nolan's Batman.
But then that Bane is why I brought that up. I'm sorry, I will edit most of this. That Bane didn't work for anyone else. He wasn't f***ing Talia's bitch. He wasn't Poison Ivy's bitch. He wasn't anybody's bitch. He was Bane. Him in himself was the biggest threat Bruce Wayne ever came across. And Jean Paul Valley ended up killing him. And it's one of these things that I think would have been brilliant. I would love to see that film. I would just love to see it, because you can condense those 3 massive volumes you can buy of those comics into a 2.5 hour masterpiece of a movie. You really could.
Maybe you should.
Me, yeah.
Right the fuck out of it, mate. Make this happen.
I would love to. I hope enough people see this and go, what a brilliant idea. I think it's already been, like, most people do say this, like, that have read the comic, they want to see it, but I think we should move on.
Yeah, let's crack on from that.
From even movie talk to a challenge, sir.
Challenge, eh?
A challenge. I have a couple of questions. So it's going to be a sort of challenge, but it's also just because I want to know these things.
Okay, sure.
About Star Wars.
Star Wars.
Good old.
Yeah.
Good old.
Good old Star Wars. The best of all the franchises.
Now, was A New Hope always considered Episode 4? Or is it, and I'm right to think that they only ever rebranded it Episode 4 when George Lucas went and decided to be a mad scientist and create the prequel storyline as well. So did that happen? Like when Star Wars originally came out and it was Star Wars A New Hope, was it Episode 4 in like the original release?
I got your question. Yeah.
Was it?
No, it wasn't. You're 90% right. It came out as just the score was there. It went bam Star Wars, and it just had A New Hope. It didn't have episode.
Yeah,
I'm 90% sure about this, but it wasn't.
What I thought when I was a kid watching it. I didn't see fucking episode anything. That's what I thought.
To when it got added, it wasn't. It was before Empire Strikes Back came out. Empire Strikes Back was Episode 5.
Even
the absolute original, I'm pretty certain.
Really?
Yeah, there's no version of Episode. It was
I
always.
didn't think Episode anything appeared on any of them until they re-released the VHSs and remastered them all.
That sounds worryingly like something I've read, but I do think that was the case. I think that was the case. My heart tells me Empire Strikes Back was always Episode 5, but that's very easily checkable. That, and I could well.
Fire me in the comments.
Could well
that's
be
easier.
Wrong. That.
Like, let me know if you know, because yeah, that is something. Like I say, that's almost a trivia challenge, but it's also something I just wanted to know. Because I was sure, because my friend kept referring to it as Episode 4 about 10 years ago, and he punched him in the face. I was like, dude, it was the first one. Yeah, but it was the first one. Stop being a dick. Just because George Lucas is a mad scientist, he's gone f***ing crazy and started ruining everything he made. Like, just you know, he did. Don't you know? Anyway.
Okay, good. That's good for this question. Go on.
As far as are you familiar with the Anakin curse?
The what now?
The Anakin curse.
I'm not familiar
every
with
single person, including the person that was in the Vader suit, as well as the guy at the end of Episode 6, I suppose we'll call it, that had his face shown. Every single one of them, including the little kid in in Episode 1 and the dude in 2 and 3, have had shockingly bad careers after they've played Anakin Skywalker. Go.
I don't know. I'm not familiar. I think I might have heard something about that, but yeah, perhaps. Perhaps.
That's a
I mean,
no,
that Hayden
ladies and gentlemen.
Christensen guy he married Rachel Bilson, so life can't be all bad for him.
No, he'll be fine, but he won't be making many huge movies in the future, I don't think.
So maybe there is a Curse of Anakin.
But yeah, it just
Anakin
seems to be a
Skywalker.
massive coincidence that every single one that has played Anakin Skywalker has had shit tipped on them from a great distance. Like,
Yeah,
for
that
instance,
poor kid.
the guy from the West Country that was in the suit in the first one.
What was wrong with him then? Did he have a
His
stroke?
voice wasn't right, so they got James Earl
Yeah,
Jones to
yeah.
do his voice, and he was absolutely gutted. He was never in a film ever since, apparently.
Yeah.
He appeared in a suit in something after that. He was never in another film, in like a big film.
Interesting.
This next question is for you. It's what actor played one of, if not the head Ewok, but
Warwick
then
Davis.
went on to, Warwick Davis. But when and which film did he end up working with George Lucas?
Willow.
Again, who else was in it?
Val Kilmer.
So that's how it ties into Batman as I was
Yeah.
saying before, but never mind.
Do you like that film, Willow?
I thought I really liked it when I was a kid, yeah.
Amazing.
I really liked it as a kid, yeah.
Have you watched it in adulthood and thought,
I haven't watched it in adulthood.
oh, give it a spin.
I'm gonna, that is on the list actually. I've got a few things that I've rewatched as an adult that I used to love as a kid, and
Yeah, man. It stands up.
Most
Stands
have
up.
stood up actually. Most of the things. Anyway.
Let me just dwell on that very slightly, right? Because there's a bit in it.
Yeah.
It's like it's a kind of storytelling that it's like, I'm absolutely mad for it. It's where stuff's set up a certain way where the main character is like either they're sure of themselves,
Right.
but everyone around is doubting them, and circumstances are in place where they can't prove themselves yet.
Right.
You ever seen Blues Brothers?
Oh yeah.
So everyone's like, they're like, look, we're an amazing rhythm and blues band. We'll be the best. We'll put on this gig. We'll make all this money. And everyone's telling you can't do it. You can't do it.
Yeah.
Gets to the end, what happens? And then,
Yeah,
but then
exactly.
Thor's another one. He's telling them, look, I'm a god. I'm a god. I'm a god. Once I get my hammer, you're gonna see some serious shit. Everyone's like, he's not a god. He's not a god. Gets his hammer back. Amazing.
You see some.
Mad Martigan in Willow. He's like, I'm the greatest swordsman that ever lived. But he's just a bumbling buffoon who's like, always
Yeah.
chasing women.
And falling
All this-
over himself, literally. Yeah.
All the soldiers are like, man, Mad Madigan, you're an idiot, you're a loser, I still serve the king or whatever, you serve no one. And he goes, I serve the Nelwyn. That's like, he starts to ramp up. Then there's a bit where he escapes, he puts his sword through a tent and he slices through and he jumps out. And he's finally got his sword, finally, in a clear run at some villains. And he flips it around a bit and he runs after him. The music plays, ba-ba-da-ba, and he just canes a load of people in like rapid succession. And then Willow goes, it cuts to Willow and Willow's holding the baby and he goes, you are great! And he goes, dun 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 dun, and then he falls over because he tries to flip his sword up. It's just fantastic. I just want moments like that in films. Pure, joyous, you are great! I love it. Anyway, so there you go. Next question.
Brilliant. None of that will be cut. Apart from most of it.
We get one person to watch Willow again, and if that's you, then it's a job.
I will be. That's like, whether you did that great big speech or not. Who shot first?
Oh, yeah.
Please tell me that, because I've heard the argument over and over and over again, and quite frankly, I'm not going to be asked to sit there and pause the bastard film and watch it frame by frame.
Yeah.
What's your opinion?
Simple
Who's
answer.
sad?
Simple answer is originally Han did shoot first
Right.
because he's a rotten smuggler.
Yeah.
Nah, that's
He's a rogue.
yeah, that's fine. But then Lucas changed it because he felt that painted Han to be a bit too ruthless.
Right.
Which is a great shame, because the thing is, Han is a smuggler. He's a smuggler. He's a criminal.
Yeah, he's a dirty nerf herder.
He's a dirty nerf herder.
What the f is a nerf
With a heart
herder,
of,
dude?
I don't know.
What
they,
is-
they heard out. There's nerfs.
It's
Nerfs get everywhere.
like people. It's from kids shooting them at everyone. And like, you got to
Just
collect
collects the
those things.
nerfs.
Yeah.
It's
That
just-
was another question I was going to ask actually.
What is
Is
a nerf
what
herder?
the hell
Yeah,
is
no
a
one knows.
nerf?
It's just a little
No,
made
forget
up.
what the herder is. As soon as we can establish what the hell a nerf is, we know what a herder is.
Well, the beauty of Star Wars is, and I think one of the best things about it, is something like you don't see, say, in the Lord of the Rings universe, or many universes really, is where the creator of it let other people just run with stuff and just make their own stuff and have it be
absolutely.
officially released
Yeah,
in the form of novels, and have it be almost. It was only when the new films came out that it was sort of it was sort of a soft canon where you can have all that, and this is the Star Wars universe. Now it's like that is not the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, they've decided definitively that none of that counts now.
So I guarantee you, someone would have put a lot of thought in it. Say, what is a nerf?
Yeah.
How do they eat? How do they act? How are they herded? What is their worth to the people of this particular planet?
And
where do they come from? Where are they going?
Dress like?
Yes, exactly. So that's one of the beauties of it. The handshot first thing, it's just an example of a cool character quirk that got thinned out.
Anyway, it happened in the 70s as well, when you could get away with shooting someone and still come out like a hero.
Well,
and like, you know, that was one of those things that was in many films. Like, even in the 90s, no one seems to remember that. You know, we were on about Batman killing. Well, in the original Batman and Batman Returns, Batman full on straight up fucking kills people. Case in point,
he straps a bit of dynamite to that guy and chucks him off,
and he literally explodes.
Yeah, that's right. He was a fat,
and now he's a dead. He's like
fat and dead.
In the first one, he killed people. He hung a dude. Like, I mean, I know he was going but that
he was
painful,
alive.
Man. That was like he shot him in the collarbone.
I think he was just hanging up by a bit of his collarbone.
From his collarbone.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
He did that. Like, there is a school of thought that thinks that he purposely dropped Jack Nicholson into the thing as well.
Yeah,
it's like an eye thing. If you really do examine it, the way he looks at him, he just drops him he just flat out drops him on the fucking thing. Also, what outcome did he really think was going to happen by strapping him to an unstable gargoyle and like letting it just drag him down? Either the helicopter crashes, in which case all 3 or 4 of them are dead, or he lets go, he's splattered, he's dead.
Yeah, can't argue with that. No, fair enough. That's all.
But you could get away with it back then.
Well,
you could get away with it even.
Would it surprise you to learn, Andy? Have you seen Rogue One, the new Star Wars film?
I tried. I really tried. I couldn't do it.
So you didn't watch any of it?
Yeah. I watched the first like 20 minutes of it.
Would it surprise you?
Like, I think what it is that I haven't seen a Star Wars movie in so long that the film is referring to things of which I have no clue.
Yeah, you have to. That's one of the.
That's the thing. I know the general lore of Star Wars, and I know mostly of what things are called and where things happen and what time and blah blah blah. Who shot first now? But like, they were going, oh yes, and when this happened in the Galactic War of blah blah blah, when blah 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 happened and blah blah blah, and I'm like,
okay,
was that in the film?
Okay.
Was that in a film I have seen, or is this an extended lore thing? What's going on?
No, fair enough.
I have the same problem with that.
Make a point.
With Halo 5. That story, standalone campaign, doesn't exist or work without extended universe shit.
Yeah, it's a shame.
You have to read 5 books, watch 2 films and a fucking comic book to understand what the fuck's going on in that thing.
Sure.
And I felt the same with Rogue One. I got 20 minutes into it and I was like, I feel like I want to go back and watch a few Star Wars movies and then I'll try again.
Yeah,
because it's referring to stuff that I just don't remember.
Fair,
you know.
Fair.
So,
but in the opening scene of that, you've got who effectively the main hero of the piece, not the main hero.
As a child,
you got Jin, the girl, but then her counterpart in that, effectively playing a bad boy rebel. Right. It's called Cassian something. It's just, and again, completely forgettable. But his first scene is getting information from some sort of fairly innocent bumbling spy in the back streets of a city. They're in like an alley and this guy comes and tells him some crucial information. Then he's like, we have to escape now, we have to escape, and this guy just like shoots him in cold blood in the back, and it's so that he can escape on his own, and he's the male hero. So that's your hero, that's one of your heroes, killing an innocent character in cold blood.
For no reason,
Not for no reason. He killed him so that he could definitely escape with this important information, because this guy was nobbled. That's a strong character thing. So now you got a rebel who's willing to kill for the rebellion. We've never had that before. That's an interesting thing. But it didn't get. That wasn't the focus. It felt like that was setting up that angle, but then none of that was actually in it subsequently.
Right. Okay.
So that's just a sort of a side point to say, like, it's clear that people want to do stuff like that. Your hero killing someone else in cold blood, tell that story, but it wasn't in there properly. So it's not like it can't be done. It's just
I mean, I get it. Like I say, it just doesn't happen anymore. And I think Nolan's Batman has a lot to do with it as well, because of that whole "I'm a hero, I don't kill" thing was such a strong narrative that it seems to have bled into other films and other franchises.
Yeah. You only get some.
I mean, those
Wonder Woman
films
killed a fair bit.
Those films are now over a decade old since the first one came out in 2005 or 6.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Since that happened, a decade's worth of filmmaking has happened, and we've that same sort of hero narrative has been told over and over again since, and it seems to have bled over into every franchise. So something like that happening might have been an uproar of like general moviegoers might have been like, how am I supposed to get behind this guy if you're going to kill? Batman doesn't kill. I mean, I'm not watching Batman.
Yeah, you know? Maybe. Maybe. But you know, people. It's war, isn't it?
It does. It bleeds into other things.
Wonder Woman kills a lot of Nazis. I would say that.
Fair enough. How did you think? Because this is just a general question. It's not really a trivia one. How do you feel the Force Awakens went in general?
I think I sort of addressed this on my 48-minute rant.
Really? Because I thought you only really lightly touched it.
No, I hammered it.
Okay.
I'm going to do a quick answer because I think
here's a bit more of an angle to it then. How do you feel it went? Like as far as like not as a movie or part of the saga or anything like that. How do you think it changed the way people perceive Star Wars? Because it did, apparently. It people really started either kicked off about it or really loved it or whatever, because it brought back Luke right at the very end, albeit pointlessly. It showcased the old characters being old, and it brought in the new characters doing more or less what had happened before, but at the same time opening it up in a way that they can start to do original movies. Because I believe that was the point. J.J. Abrams said, why not repeat what was done in a way that can be new but familiar, so that we can open it up and do new things with it. Do you reckon that was successful?
Yeah, definitely. I think like the big thing they had to do was done, which is all the things that you said. I think it summed it up very well what they managed.
Okay.
I was so excited.
I just wondered because my perspective on it isn't like is one of on the outside looking in, because it's one I haven't seen, and as a Star Wars fan, I just thought you might have a better perspective on it, because it was supposed to do a thing. Now, did it do that thing it was supposed to do?
It did the thing that the studio needed it to do.
Yeah,
which is the things that you said. I went to see that with my pal who's a massive Star Wars fan.
Right.
And we were like mega excited to the point where we were dodging around town during the day trying to avoid being near groups of people in case I think it was the week after it came out, so that time to get together, trying to stay away in a cinema, literally looking around and hiding in dark corners, so we wouldn't overhear anyone saying anything about it. Sat down almost in tears, so relieved that we'd made it without being spoiled. And by the end of it, we were both like, oh, what? Now, how can it have succeeded in those things that you just mentioned? And we were so disappointed in it. From my perspective, my problem is, I think if you like Han Solo and he was your favourite part of the original Star Wars films, then Force Awakens is brilliant. But he wasn't mine. Mine was Luke, and the whole point of the original story is the Skywalker trilogy.
Yeah.
The Skywalker sort of strand.
Six films.
Yeah, exactly. And the start of it is on the crawl. Luke Skywalker's disappeared. So basically, I want Luke. And if he's not going to be in it, then I want everyone to be bent on finding him, which is how they sort of set up the search for Skywalker. But the main climax of the film isn't they attack this base, but it's not like they're trying to get information out of that base. It's integral to where he is. The information that leads to where he is sort of very haphazardly. Some of it's here, some of it we had all along. Some of it you have to listen to an interview with J.J. Abrams to find out really what it was. Right. It's integral stuff. So there's that angle. The Skywalker thing's disappointing. The Rey thing is the reason why you give Force Awakens and the new Star Wars stuff such a lot of credit is that the two new characters they brought in were really likeable, and you haven't had any likeable characters in Star Wars since the original Star Wars. No one of the prequels was a good character. I think is accepted. Yeah. So you really care about these people. Rey's stranded on a desert planet, just like Luke was at the start. So it's an echo, and it's the same, effectively the same thing. The difference is she knows stuff about her family and why her family put her there. Right. That we never get told. Right. We're told it's important, but we're never told it what it is. And she's not trying to find that out. She already knows it, but we don't. And I found that incredibly frustrating. Right. It's like this character, the point of view character.
It's a double-edged sword, that thing. That could have worked really well. In fact, you describing it, it's like, oh, that's interesting, but then
we never know what it is. It never gets...
So that was an interesting take until you realised that there is ultimately no payoff.
No payoff. And it's like, that payoff might be coming, but well, that's why that's the end of it, and I just went, I don't even know anything then. Nothing's been advanced apart from Han Solo's death.
Yeah.
Which is a great moment, but it's not the focus of the film. So the focus of the film is just all over the shop. I wanted Luke Skywalker, and it brings me around to the major point of it. I can let all that go, maybe, if that's this new episodic way of making it. I know it's always episodic, but really stringing out the stuff you desperately want to the next film is really like quite a torturous way to go about it. The problem was, the original film, Luke Skywalker is motivated initially by destroying the Empire because they're evil, once he finds out how bad they are.
Yeah.
From later on in Star Wars, and definitely from the Empire, and in Empire he becomes motivated solely by saving his friends. He goes off to get trained. Yoda tells him, your friends are in...
He dumps off the training.
He knocks off the training.
And
the fate of the galaxy.
Goes at the Empire, then realises probably should go train because I need to go save my friends, and goes back.
Yeah, he sacks off his training, goes to try and save his friends.
But
he doesn't care about anything apart from his friends. That's it. His motivation is solely helping his friends. He's never heard him before, and that trumps everything for him.
Did you know, I'm sorry to cut you out, but here's a weird little piece of trivia. Apparently the original title of Return of the Jedi was Revenge of the Jedi, which is weird.
Ex-Jedi.
And like, yeah, exactly. The very thing that he set up to create sort of like goes against that very thing, but that was his original thought. And I think that sort of thinking is what failed the prequels, because by the time the prequels came around, everybody was like, oh Lord Lucas, do whatever you like. Whereas there were people in his ear in the first
create tension.
Saying, look, you can't get away with that, it's not going to work. If he had his own way, the first film would have been very different. Apparently, it would have been a bit.
I think disagreements with it. Just kept it. You know, there's certainly a school of thought that I happen to agree with. As much magical stuff as he does, definitely. But no, you're right. It's too many yes men on the prequels.
Yeah. Well, I just don't think there was anybody else there.
No, I disagree with you. Everyone's like, yes, Judge.
No, I don't think there was anybody there to disagree. It was just like he set the whole thing up himself. He like filmed a majority of it in his own studios. He like recorded like dialogue, music, all the rest of it, all in his Skywalker ranch. He like did everything essentially within his own little bubble. And
no one was like, George, just George,
bit more narrative.
These characters they're rubbish though, aren't they?
Yeah,
they're all rubbish characters.
It's either they're just a bit uninteresting.
Yeah, there's no. You can't describe them.
How can you have Samuel L. Jackson in a movie
boring
and not do anything? Because he didn't do anything.
Characteristics
I've never seen that guy in a film where he didn't just steal it. And in that film, it was just sort of like.
Well, it's a struggle with Jedi characters because Jedi are supposed to be emotionless. So that's fine, have them be that way, but then you have your rebellious Jedi.
But then Obi-Wan in the very first Star Wars was not emotionless. In fact, he got pissed off with Luke a couple of times.
I don't think he did. No, he's very level. But he had,
for Christ's sake, kid. He had like that. He was just not. He wasn't like or anything. He was just like
mildly, maybe. I dispute that.
It was less like that in his younger days when Thingy was playing him. When train spotting guy. I know his name. It just escapes me. It's always the same when I get in front of a camera. Anyway. I think that's it for questions.
But just finish that Star Wars point.
Yes,
the very last bit of it is simply, in Empire Strikes Back, Luke's motivated by saving his friends. In Return of the Jedi's motivated by saving his father. Ultimately, that's his focus. He's desperate to save his father. He doesn't care if he becomes a Jedi. He doesn't care.
Exactly.
Because it's the right thing to do. Yeah. It's the hardest thing to do. It's what everyone's telling me is impossible. I'm going to do it because I'm the hero. Because that's what heroes do. That's what you want Superman to do. So then, why in Force Awakens is he leaving Han alone to deal with this terrible situation? And he'll know that Han's in terrible emotional pain. He'll knows that it's his training of this kid that's gone wrong. This kid's destroying the galaxy. His friends are in terrible trouble, terrible emotional pain, and he just leaves him alone to deal with it. Now everything we've been told about Luke to this point screams at us he would not do that. Now, what I say in the video is there might well be a reason for that. But if I don't get that in this film, if I don't get that in this film, then you can't expect me to get to the end of that film and be like, punch in the air because they found him. I'm like, what the fuck were you, mate? And it wouldn't be like this whole. If I was Rey, it wouldn't be like, well, I'm not. But as an audience member, I just want to say, where the fuck were you? I don't want to say, oh, I'd love him to take the lightsaber in a big moment. Like, where were you, mate? We needed you then. What's happened to you? What's wrong with you?
I've heard Mark Hamill say that exact thing.
Yeah.
I've heard
that's
him say,
exactly
like, he
what it
was
was meant.
sold on the idea that they were going to be searching for him all the way through. It's going to all be about his character, but he just wouldn't be appearing until the end.
Yeah.
And this, that, and the other was happening. He was like, right, I'm up for that. And like, you're in the next one and the one after, but this first one, it's all about the search for Luke. And it never.
It's
was
framed that way, but it's not the thrust of it.
I think his exact words were, "I was duped into it." I was duped into this Star Wars film because they told me one thing and they did another. Essentially, is what he said. But
anyway, so there we go.
Yeah.
Right. Do you want some aliens question then to finish it off?
Yes.
Right. I'll keep this to the quick ones then.
Okay.
Who is the best Marine in Aliens and why?
It's undoubtedly Hicks for me.
What are Hicks's like character traits?
Well, he's sort of a caring badass. There's just something really awesome about the fact that he gives a shit, but he still kicks the shit out of stuff. And I think the best way to describe it is in one line that he does when Gorman says, "Look, he can't make that kind of decision. He's just a grunt. No offence." And he goes, "None taken." And he gets on the radio and goes, "Right, we need to prepare for immediate dust off. I say we just get out of here and nuke the entire site from orbit. Only way to be sure." Yep. It's just that encapsulates.
I like it when he goes, tells Newt not to touch that grenade or something.
Dangerous honey.
It's dangerous honey. It's like a little bit of an angle.
It's just
he knows how to dance around kids.
Tiny little things.
Falls asleep in the carriers, is going down. He's a hardened Marine clearly, but he's got a past.
Yep. Even Hudson is really good with the kid as well.
What Hudson's character traits?
Hudson he's that thing that I've talked about Bill Paxton in Predator 2, the late great. He plays that American show-off guy so well because he does it with a sort of genuine likability somehow. He's like, "I'm such a big head," but you go, "No, you're just lovely, really, aren't you?" Because he's like, "Oh, I'm so cool, and I'm this, that." He does the ultimate badass scene in the special edition, where he's like, "Don't worry, my whole team of ultimate badasses will protect you. Don't worry, Ripley. We got grenade launchers, we got AM-42s," and she's just saying loads of shit at her.
He's like a fair weather kind of Marine, isn't he? He's like, but as soon as he goes really sort of crumbles a bit, he goes like, "Game over, man. What are we gonna do now?"
He goes a bit mental, but then she
back in it.
She just shoots him back into it because I mean,
all right,
he's like, "Okay, I'm on it." He goes on it, and he does go on it as well, and he's still a bit of a pessimist. You can still see that he's still got that kind of "oh, we're all going to die" mentality, but he's not any longer in survival mode. He's gone.
He's not cowardly as well. He's like, even though he's uncertain about stuff, he wouldn't ever leave anyone behind.
Yeah, but that's it. Yeah, exactly.
He's the
loyal.
Coward. He's loyal.
The coward is Gorman. Oh, hang on, Gorman. Did I say Gorman?
Yeah, that's Gorman.
Because I didn't mean
Gorman.
Gorman.
What did you mean?
Because Gorman gets hit all the way through the beginning of the film because he's the green guy. It's like
he's in command.
He's straight out of academy.
Yeah.
But he's finished with officer ranks.
He's Billy Big Wallet.
He does, and then you realise straight away that he's never been on a combat drop. He's never been on a combat drop. Then he gets his ass knocked out. When he comes back at the end, he's Mr. Hero. He's like
he actually has his own art, doesn't he?
He does, and he not only that, but he's not barking orders at anybody at the end.
He understands.
He's following what's going on, and he's quite literally happy for the chain of command to be bypassed because he knows it's for the better of the group.
So he's come
and
around
that's
to it.
never talked about. And I didn't mean Gorman. I meant that guy,
the company guy.
Paul, what's his name? Thingy Eisner plays.
Burke.
Burke.
Yeah,
is what I meant
that's
to say.
another slimy
Burke
company character.
is the coward.
Straight.
Burke is
Gorman
the coward.
gets his moment with Vasquez as well, where he kind of honourably
goes
back to say that. He goes back to say that.
Yeah, he does.
And then he pops a grenade.
Yeah.
It's a lovely moment because Vasquez is kind of badass, but totally like that with Drake. Isn't she? Like her and Drake are like some kind of item where she doesn't want to leave him behind. She won't follow orders to leave him behind because there's some kind of like.
But that only happens in a moment. And this is the thing that I love about the first three movies that's not repeated in the fourth or those AVP movies is that there was dialogue, there was character development, There was things that happened in the background, like Gorman's entire arc happens without anybody saying anything or talking about it. You just witness it.
Yeah, it's all through actions and all that.
You just see it, and it's happening in the background. You don't realise it. I mean, again, it's probably my least favourite out of the 3 films, but it is still right up there. I love it still. You do notice every single little thing like that. Like the pilot is the only one that really annoys me all the way through. That she's alive.
You very briefly,
but it's only because of her voice, I think. And it's like, apparently she saw an alien once, and then it's like, what the oh, you're dead, right? Okay, good.
Right, here's a follow-up question.
Okay.
Can you name me 3 secondary characters from Prometheus and Alien Covenant combined, and tell me anything about the
Covenant? Probably not, because I've only ever seen it once. I think my favourite character was.
It doesn't work if you can actually think of some.
Oh, I can't remember his name, but it's just like there's an amazing line that he has. It's the most memorable thing for me, and that's like Wraith, what's his face, sits down with him. The geologist guy, or he's a biologist actually, and he sits down. He's like, "Hey, how you doing?" Blah blah blah, and he's like, "I'm not here to be mates. I'm here to make some money." It's just brilliant, man.
That does sound quite good, actually.
It's the guy, the British guy that plays the singer out of the Joy Division in 24 Hour Party People.
Sure.
I can't remember his name. He's just brilliant at that type of abrasive character, and he's just like, he just does it in spades in that film. And he's just like, he's sat down. I think he's got like a cup of coffee, and he's still quite lagged from the hypersleep or whatever, and he's just like that. And then he sits down in front of him, and he goes. Straight away he's looking at him, he's like, "Who the f*** are you?" kind of thing. And he goes, "Hi, yeah, I'm so-and-so, I'm here," blah, blah, blah. He puts his hand out, he goes, "Not here to be mates."
Be mates, 3 cool.
I'm here to make some money.
So I think points been proved there.
Brilliant.
I should watch Prometheus again and give it
the Scottish lady as well, she's quite good in the background, but in the same sort of way that the woman that essentially is Lambert, that essentially is the audience. And this Scottish woman in Prometheus is essentially Lambert.
Yep.
The Lambert ideal of this is the audience reaction sort of thing, until of course she gets her ass pounded by. She survives right to the end as well, because she comes right at the end. She's at the end.
Oh yeah.
With the sort of ball thing going on. Yeah.
She gets thrown against the wall.
She does. Yes. Oh, yeah. She does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alright then, okay, so that backfired on me and I should watch Prometheus again because it's got loads of sweet character development in it. Fair enough. Next question, this is a quick trivia one. After Aliens, there was a series of comics released.
Yes, there were. Christ.
That kind of diverged, well, you have to forget, that before Alien 3 was a thing.
Yeah.
And in later versions of those comics, and in some of the novelizations, the characters of Hicks and Newt had their names changed. What were their names changed to?
Oh, I know this because also Ripley was a clone in this as well, because they couldn't or didn't want to. No, originally it was Ripley, but when Alien 3 came out, they changed it so that it was a clone of Ripley,
sure.
Or no, an android version of Ripley.
That sounds cool. What were their names?
I don't know.
Oh, what a
I'm
shame.
sorry.
That's a shame, isn't it? That's sad.
You're gonna have to ask me again.
I'll ask you that question again. The question is, after Aliens came out, there was a series of comics that happened before Alien 3 was a thing.
Right.
So it's got the character of Hicks and Newt within them.
Right.
Later version of those comics and some of the novelizations, the names of Hicks and Newt were changed. What were they changed to?
See, it escapes me, and one thing I do know is the most interesting thing that I took away from it, and that was that Ripley was in it until Alien 3 was released, and then it was a sort of an android clone of Ripley. As far as the other two, was it like Bill and Sandra?
It was Billy and Wilkes.
Billy and Wilkes? Really?
Yeah.
I know, shot in the dark.
Not even missing, so well done.
Alright, okay. Well, I missed a question, you got all the questions, unless there's another question.
There's one more, trivia one. Who created the original Aliens characters?
The original Aliens characters?
It's the one in the credits that says, based on characters created by
Dan O'Bannon and that crazy guy with the beard that was like,
That's like this all the time. I think when he was living in my apartment and I decided he got this far through and I thought, What if we just f them? What if the alien
Them in the
them?
face.
What if we just f them? And that's how the alien gets on board.
And that's the chestburster scene and all that sort of shit. I just can't remember his name. I know it's Dan O'Bannon and that guy.
Ronald Schuster. Ronald Schuster, I think. Something Schuster. Yeah.
No, I can't remember, but I know that
So you got a bit.
the producers took the script from them and basically rewrote all the dialogue, but everything else was in, and they created Ash as an android.
The Ash character's good, man. Right. Do you know what? I don't like the original Alien film.
Do you know?
Now,
Okay.
I love the first half of it, and then I find that like as soon as they go into that bit with the tunnels, all like the logic seems to break down. Like none of it seems to make that scene doesn't seem to make sense.
When
in the shafts,
when Dallas actually goes
and
in
he's
with the
fumbling
flamethrower
around, it's
and-
like where's it? Where he's saying it is? Well, it doesn't seem to make sense. Now you probably say watch it again. I watched it in the end.
No,
There's
well,
that bit.
it doesn't really.
There's
and
a bit
like,
where she's.
I think the problem with it is that they're watching, and you're watching a 2D scan of this little blip go, and she's going, it's right there, it's right there.
It should be right
And
there.
what she's saying doesn't seem to match up with the
What's
footage that they've
happening?
taken.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that there's
Strange.
probably more footage, or there wasn't the footage, or they've lost the footage that they were supposed to have. It was one of those things, you know, where, like, I mean, they were dealing with actual film negative, you know.
Genuine films.
And yeah,
it's
real
not-
films, people, not just digital that we can throw
No,
together.
digital nonsense.
Where you literally had to grab it and cut it.
It's scissors. Now and then it's the bit where she's like self-destructing the ship. It's like she's gonna self-destruct it and then get off. Fair enough.
Yeah.
But then like
and then she realises it's right in front of the escape pod. So she runs back and tries to stop the self-destruction of the
is
ship.
that how she does it?
Yeah, because it's
Oh,
right
it's
there,
so
hanging
tedious.
out with
The cat.
cat. Yeah, and it's right in front of the thing. She knows she can't get past it, so she shits herself and runs, and tries to stop it, but she gets it down about 5 seconds
like,
after.
Damn you,
the-
mother, and then she has to get off again. Yeah,
At least
it's
turn the
a bit
cooling
tedious.
systems back on. Who gives a shit about the cooling system? The whole fucking thing's going to blow. Anyway,
A bit tedious that bit.
she then goes back into the ship, and I do
Makes
love
it anyway.
that you don't see it first time watching.
Yeah, it's just sort of chilling.
It
there.
looks like a tube.
It does, it
like
certainly
any
does.
of the other tubes, and you don't see it, and then
Why?
the hand comes out and you shit yourself. It's brilliant.
Why then is aided as Ripley? She gets undressed in a very leisurely way with a like sweat
70s
sheen
pants.
body, 70s pants.
Yeah.
Sort of, it's really slowly,
Yeah.
And then she goes over to that bit. She's putting on some buttons. Then it shoots its hand out. The alien shoots its hand out. So she's like, "Oh, this is bad." So she goes back into a cupboard again, really slowly, and then really slowly, leisurely.
No, she actually.
Leisurely.
You're remembering it ever so slightly wrong.
Leisurely
When she-
puts it on.
well, that bit you're remembering right.
All the
'Cause
while,
see,
the
that's-
alien's just like going, "Oh, I'll just test my jaws out. I'm tired. I'm just
But
a
that's
bit."
the
You know, when
thing.
you wake up and you're a bit groggy, and it just takes a while to get going. It's just chilling for ages, just chilling.
But I think
think I'll
they
get
were,
out now.
Like it was the 70s, and they were experimenting with the idea that it was like that it just moved differently to anything that had ever been seen on film before. So they didn't want it to necessarily just appear and jump into your face. So it just sort of moved slowly, and then she blew it
Bursts
out
it.
bursts it, and it hits the floor. And it just sort of
Still
gets up,
chilling.
and it sort of gets up and moves slowly. And then she starts to mess around while she's singing Lucky Star to herself, and then suddenly it's behind her.
See, that bugs me as well.
And then
It's
she
like,
just
why
hits
is she
the thing,
like?
and it
She
goes.
sort of looks at it for a bit,
and then he goes
and then
like,
she sort of looks forward and starts singing, and then she seems to be shocked that it's in her face.
yeah,
Do you know,
yeah.
that bit
And
makes sense. It's previously just been like not messing about killing, and this bit, like I say, it's just.
well, no, like when it kills
slowly-
Lambert, it runs into the room and it nails down on the floor, and it just sits there until she notices it. And when it kills, what's his face from above
Brett.
Brett,
Sort of- it does sort of
comes down
goes like
really
that.
slowly, and again it sits there behind him and waits. And something I didn't realise until I saw the behind the scenes is it never actually sets foot on the floor. It's hanging the
sort of does
entire
a quite a
time.
cool acrobatic thing.
Yeah,
down,
and
doesn't
it's hanging the entire time, and it gets him from the air, and it's doing that whole thing. But again, it doesn't kill him until he turns around and notices him.
Yeah, that's.
And
not-
the same happens with
completely.
Dallas. But that's the quickest kill. The Dallas
Yeah.
kill in the tunnels is the quickest kill. He turns, he notices him, gets him.
Yeah, that's true.
But that's like, it seemed to be the way that they moved until Cameron came in and made them crawl on the roof and move around and jump off sides of things, and like he made them do that. And a lot of it's much like the second Predator film. A lot of the lore of these things came in the second movie, and it was all done from assumptions of what they were trying to do with the first one. Whereas I think if Cameron was aware of what they were going for with the people dissolving into eggs, and that's how the eggs came about, we wouldn't have had a queen. But that was like you could have only known that if you were involved in the production, and of course he wasn't. And apparently he was off writing Rambo First Blood Part 2.
James Cameron?
Yeah.
What?
Whilst he was writing Aliens and pitching the idea to the studio. So it was not like he didn't have any inside knowledge whatsoever of that first film, and he just went from what was on the screen.
Yeah, as he should have.
And logically thought, if there's eggs, something lays eggs, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Let's make it insect-like, because it's sort of insect-like, and that's where all that came from. And there you go. And in the third one, they had the idea that a certain facehugger can lay a queen embryo.
I like that.
After that, they decided that a queen embryo can just develop. There was such a thing as a Praetorian alien that would be like a warrior or whatever, and it would pupate into a Praetorium that would then pupate into a queen. Or some and it just starts getting ridiculous when it goes that far. I think as far as Alien 3 goes is as far as I would like to go in that continuity. And I'm quite happy for Ridley Scott to explore the weird 70s sci-fi side of it all. And I like that. I just wish that he'd, and like, instead of doing like 50 films to explain one narrative, how about we have like 2? I was hoping that this one would have tied it up, but instead it left it open. And knowing from the outset that there's going to be another one, like, it saves the film.
And we're done. And we're out. Do you want to keep going on audio at that point, and just while you're in the flow?
Well, yeah, I can do.
So it felt like you.
I'm absolutely happy for the idea that David may or may not have created the xenomorph, or at least the protomorph, as they're calling it. I'm quite happy for the idea that that it was through experiments with that black goo that people hated in Prometheus, and all that idea. But there is still hope in that mural that you see on the wall in Prometheus.
The mural?
There's Muriel. She's lovely.
Why am I up on this wall, guys? I've got a wedding to plan.
Oh no, mate.
This is beyond the pale.
Is like, the thing. Is essentially almost a xenomorph on the thing. I think that's supposed to point towards that every mutation that goo creates ultimately leads to that
closer
creature.
To that. I like the idea of that.
But you could throw it on a bunch of rabbits or throw it on a bunch of monkeys, and ultimately through mutation it will end up
I like
at that.
I like that idea. I hated the idea that we got to that at random.
Yeah.
By some guy tinkering.
No, because like he thinks he's tinkering, but ultimately that's how the goo works.
I love that.
Exactly.
I'd love an engineer. Just tell me that somehow.
Yeah, that's the thing. And also there's what people are already calling deleted scenes, but they're not really deleted scenes. They're just in the novelization, but they're not in the thing. Is that David outright says that he'd seen a protomorph or the egg.
Right.
He'd seen an egg.
Oh, okay.
And he'd seen it in the data that the engineers had, and that's exactly why he wanted to experiment, because he wanted to make that himself. He wanted to make what was referred to by them as the perfect being. He wanted to emulate that because he has a hatred for humanity, and ultimately by extension the engineers, because they created humanity apparently.
Some good stuff.
It's like, would have been good. It would have been good to see. It would have been good to have known that going in, or not even going in, just in the film. And I do like the idea that they're apparently going to do it in the film that follows Covenant, not the next one that comes out, because apparently that's going to be between Prometheus and Covenant. The next one is going
What?
to tell that story of Shaw and David.
Oh no, I doubt it.
Anyway,
I bet my life that doesn't come
I
out.
really hope that's not the case, but that's what he said. That's what Ridley said in
No.
an interview.
Ridley, why are you doing this to me, Ridley?
The one that follows is going to make it abundantly clear that all of that came before and he tried to emulate it.
Right.
Or that he was maybe the first one to see it through to fruition.
Yep.
Because ultimately the goo creates them
Yeah,
creatures
yeah. I think
eventually.
yeah.
Like through generations or just a couple of iterations, you know.
Like that.
Yeah.
Here's a quick question that I feel is relevant.
Okay.
Did the comics or extended universe of Aliens ever get that far into the origins of the beasts?
I think
Or was it more just the space jockey stuff?
they never went into the space jockey stuff. That's the thing. That's another reason why Ridley wanted to tell that story, because that one, much like the Batman Begins scenario, no one had actually talked about the space jockey thing.
That's true. There's a bit in that first Aliens graphic novel, the very first one, where like it rocks up at the end. They're getting attacked loads, and it rocks up at the end. It's a space jockey without its mask on. It looks like this weird thing,
Alright.
and it like has a psychic attack on Newt, and they think it's attacking it. No, it kills all the aliens with a big gun,
Right.
and then it has a psychic interface with Newt, and she says something like, "Oh, it wants us to know," and it's like mad with them or something like that. And it's just this little brief. They're almost like
I was
herders
not
of
aware
these
of that.
of these things. Look at that first volume, the very first of the Mark Verheiden.
I had no idea. But
So it feels like they did that, but my instinct says no one really went too far into the aliens thing, because no
Yeah.
one, they understand why it's, leave it alone. It's just they need to be this perfect organism. They're just there. They're scary. You can't.
yeah,
deep
I know
with
you can't explain something too much, or it loses its mystery,
Yeah,
and
that's what
therefore it loses some of its viciousness,
It's
vitality,
scared.
whatever. Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to leave it at that because we've
Alright.
already lost visual, as you may have
We
already
lost
know.
visual. God damn it.
But thank you for joining me.
Hey,
Mr.
pleasure.
Capell.
Pleasure is
Um,
mine.
Excellent, because I hope this is worth it to you guys, because we have sweated our balls off in this f***ing room all afternoon
Just the 5
talking
hours
about this.
of filming.
Yeah, and thank you for watching, and like and subscribe my channel, like and subscribe to Mr. Capell's channel, where he talks for 48 minutes, taking me down quite succinctly. But yeah, thank you, and see you guys later.
Peace.